Just so, there we go.
There we go. Phone booth. Welcome to I Like to Movie. My name is Dan Scully.
My name is Garrett Smith. That one really got me.
That was quite literally when you texted me, you're like, just making some tea before we start. I was like, oh, you know what? I'll use this time to come up. And I was just sitting in my head like, own, bone, cone, phone. And I was like, what movies have phone? And then, of course, phone booth. That's the one. That's the phone movie.
I recall seeing that in the movie theater and being thrilled by it, loving it.
That was a cool movie. Yeah, that was a cool movie. I liked that. That was Schumacher, right?
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, I was in middle or high school at the time. I can't remember exactly when it came out, but I remember being pretty young. I feel like that movie, to me at the time, felt very like, oh, this is like original and weird and cool,
It felt to me, because I was, man, I don't know how old I was when that came out, but it definitely felt to me like one of those things where it was like, I think this might be a genre film sneaking through.
Right.
Like getting out with some A-list talent. And I think I've really only seen it that one time.
Same.
But I think that's essentially how it did play out,
Yeah, I mean, I have distinctive memories of that movie, and that's a movie where, like, quite literally nothing happens. Mm-hmm. I mean, things happen eventually, but you know what I mean. Like, the premise of that movie is a guy is just standing still in a phone booth, basically.
Not just any guy.
Colin Farrell, yeah.
But wait, the voice on the phone was Kiefer Sutherland, if I remember correctly,
I think that's right.
Because I believe that it was actually originally set with someone else.
Okay.
And then he became the replacement, and I forget who it was.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it just like
supposed to be Sean Connery or something.
Yeah,
somebody with like a really distinctive voice.
Well, it's like the Child's Play remake. They didn't know who it was going to be. And
right.
Then at the last minute, they were like, "Let's get Mark Hamill in a booth," and great results. If
that does make movies like that more interesting to me, where it's like you don't think about it in the moment, but then you realize like, oh, that means Colin Farrell was acting against like not nothing but like a script supervisor or something. You know what I mean? Like he didn't have like an actor necessarily on the other end of that performance.
It's just somebody reading it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is usually helpful to performance to have another performer on the other side. So I would consider movies like that to have like a higher degree of difficulty for an actor.
Oh, I could imagine. Oh, I mean, at the same time though. In my minimal experience with acting, I'm going to drop a little knowledge that I learned from Dave Piccolomini when I was doing Federal Detention the musical, which, if I may say so, did not require very good acting. And I'm not a great actor. And so even then it was difficult. And Piccolomini gave me the best advice. He was like, dude, go fucking huge. Yeah. Go crazy. And if it's too crazy, we'll rein you in. That's the director's job. Just go insane. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And it was the best advice. And I feel like if I was acting just opposite, not an actor whose performance I don't have to consider, you can really just go big. And then Schumacher comes in and is just like, bring it in a little bit. Also, let's get some scissors, get them nips on display. But, let's bring it in. So I don't know, maybe in my air quotes style of acting, that would probably be easier, but I'm also a terrible actor.
I mean, I do think that there's a thing with stage acting where you actually do like stage acting requires that you go big versus like film acting that almost requires you do exactly the opposite because the camera is picking up so much information,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta like hit that back row if you're an actor because they're still subscribing to those seats and they deserve a show.
But then, the counter argument to that is always like Nick Cage is one of our greatest living actors and he's been playing to the back row since like, like
he plays
never
to the
not
moon,
playing
man.
to the back row. He's playing to like another dimension, like all
that he owns. He bought it.
Right.
Dude, that picture of him walking around with his kid is the greatest thing because it never occurred to me that he has kids because he does have kids. I've always known that. But it never occurred to me like that of course his kid would look like him.
Well, and also Nick Cage father is like not a thing I ever think of, like that's just like
but it's also something that I would dream to have.
Yeah.
That kid's marching down the street in shorts and Uggs and a t-shirt that's too long, and he's got that look of someone who's just living life, Yeah. Awesome. I love it. I wish they were both wearing a mask. That probably would have been nice. But maybe they're on set. I don't know. It might be a closed set.
That picture is wonderful, but it frustrates me only because There is a cartoon character that Nick Cage looks exactly like in that picture, but I cannot think of what it is. And if I
Is it his
could,
outfit?
no, it's the glasses. There is a cartoon character that has orange eyeballs because he's wearing like orange shaded glasses that I
Okay.
can't that I'm never gonna be able to figure it out, Dan. It's like that is such a I tried Googling it. I was Googling cartoons I grew up with. I could not find it. I know it exists. It's like in my head I can picture it perfectly. And if I could figure out what it is, I would have the most popular tweet on Twitter right now, just putting
Yeah.
those two pictures next to each other. But I
You're
can't
running out of time.
figure it out.
The next Nick Cage cycle is like it's about to happen, so you gotta
Yeah.
get ready. What's the next
I
movie?
cannot figure it out. It's so
Well,
frustrating.
when orange eyes and orange goggles, this is inaccurate, but the first image that I conjured was Christopher Lloyd getting the cartoon eyes
sure.
at the end of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm thinking of is just because I believe he has orange goggles is Booster Gold from comic books.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's all I got because when I look at him, I just only see Cage living the most Cage life.
I'm thinking of like definitely like a Cartoon Network cartoon. I think it's like something from
Okay.
that era and style of cartoons. I like tried looking through like some Powerpuff Girls like side characters and stuff to see if that's what it was. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out.
Well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say, oh wow, when you search Nick Cage, it auto fills with sun. So I guess that's big right now. Oh wow, there's just a lot of pictures of him with kids, and it's not that one.
Whoa.
I'm trying to find the picture so I can put it on screen. There it is. So
oh yeah, good point. If we are so untech savvy, we're just gonna show our phone screens onto these computer screens.
I'm doing this dad style. So here we go. This is
Yes.
the picture that Garrett's talking about, ladies and gentlemen. If anybody has any ideas as to the character that Garrett is thinking of, based on the look at tell me what you're thinking, Garrett, when you look at this. What's registering?
Because Dan,
we have YouTube. We got to embrace this technology. We got to solve mysteries.
If you flip that around and look at it really quick for a second with the idea cartoon character in your mind,
I know.
Look at how beady and purely black the center of his eyeballs are.
Yeah.
Just like honestly, a cartoon character.
When I did that real quick, it conjured a real quick image of something like sort of a flash. But I don't know if maybe you're just like, if you're like culting me right now. I'm just
I know, which I might be. Like literally I might be. This could just be like a thing that I've totally invented, but I can so clearly picture this like cartoon character in my head when I see that.
I had a few years ago at my job at the law firm, I had this word in my head, and spoiler alert, I still have not thought of it. And it's a word that I know exists, and I can't think of what it is. And it's a word that essentially means to work to the point of exhaustion.
Okay.
But to do so knowingly.
Okay.
And and I don't mean like work, but just like anything, like to rev an engine to the point of exhaustion, to work your body to the point of exhaustion. And like there's a word for that, and I can't think of it. And I was like asking everybody in my office, because I'm the fucking office crazy person. And everybody had a different word. They're like, oh yeah, it's blah blah blah. And I'm like, no.
Right, I know. Like immediately I was like, exert? But it's like it can't be, right? Like
it's a word like exertion.
Yeah.
But it's the word like going, like if you're willingly going to push for exertion because you don't care about the exhaustion, because that's secondary. It's a word that means that. Like and maybe I'm inventing a word.
Yeah. Like some sort of abandonment of like your better, I don't know, like sense. You're just going to work until you die or whatever.
When you do, as Chet Steadman said in Rookie of the Year, when you got to give them the have to.
Yeah.
When you have to do it. So you do it no matter what.
You gotta give them a have to.
Gotta give them the have to. I remember in that movie when they're on the plane and they're talking about their food, and he's like, well, I just had the best Salisbury steak I ever had in my life. And I was like, no, you didn't. I've been on a plane. I've had plain Salisbury steak, and I don't care if you're first goddamn class. There's just no way it was the best Salisbury steak you ever had. Because that goes to Encore. If I'm being honest.
This is like one of those weird things where something that's interesting about that movie to me in particular is that's the one that is written by, what's his name, right?
I know it's directed by Daniel Stern.
Right. Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe not written, but definitely directed by him. So, but think about it in that context. Now think about Gary Busey delivering that line in a Daniel Stern movie, and that line's very funny. You know what I mean? It says a lot about who Chet Steadman is, that Chet Steadman thinks the best steak he's ever had is a Salisbury steak on an aeroplane.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, he does specify it's the best Salisbury steak he's ever had, but I don't know. I just don't know. I don't believe it.
Right.
I believe a kid's tendons turning him into a pitcher.
Yes.
I believe the Cubs making it to the finals. You know, I believe that for a while an umpire would probably put up with a child singing "Pitcher's Got a Big Butt" just to make fun of the pitcher. But I just don't buy that Salisbury steak thing. It's too much.
A thing that occurred to me recently is
and not written by Daniel Stern.
Okay.
Written by Sam Harper, who has written some just terrible movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Dan Hedaya is in that movie, is he not? Do you recall
Dan
this?
Hedaya in Rookie of the Year.
I think he's like the owner of the team, maybe?
Yeah, I can picture that. I have it open, so let's see.
Check it out. See if he's in there.
Oh, yeah. He plays Larry Fisher.
Yeah, because he popped up in Commando playing an insane
sweaty guy, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also like man of indescribable ethnicity. And then Tori and I have seen him like in 3 other movies since, from, anywhere between like the 70s and the 90s, where he's playing entirely different ethnicities like every single time. He was a plug and play, like you're ethnic, basically.
Yeah, you're safely white, but not.
Right.
Like, we can get you in.
And so
that's like what's his name? If you watch the early 2000s Shaft.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright's in it, and he's playing like a pretty hard Hispanic stereotype.
And has also
wild.
I think he's played like Indian characters before as well.
Yeah.
Like Jeffrey Rush has definitely been one of those guys.
And Fisher Stevens is not one of those guys, but went for it anyway in a Short Circuit.
Absolutely wild.
And I gotta say, when I was a kid, I loved that movie, and I thought he was great in them.
Totally
racial
agreed.
politics aside,
Totally.
I did enjoy it as a kid, even if now I go, ooh.
Yep. Not knowing any better, he was like one of the best things about that movie to me when I was a child enjoying those movies. Rewatched one of those as an adult, and I was like, oh boy.
You're like, ooh. Did you see? Have you seen Blood Simple?
Yeah, the Coen's first movie.
Yeah, that's a Hedaya.
Yes, yeah.
That is like, ooh. And once again, he plays a sweaty guy who you wonder why he's not actively having a heart attack in this moment.
I just remembered why I brought that up, by the way, is just that the weird thing about Hedaya is he's a very weird actor and a very weird presence in everything I've ever seen him in. And I will forever, for all of my life, anytime I see Dan Hedaya in a movie, think of him as the guy from fucking, what's it called? Is it Little Big League? Which one are we talking about? I can never remember the title.
Rookie of the Year? Yeah.
I can never remember if it's Rookie of the Year or Little Big League.
Little Big League. That was a thing for a while. Kid gets associated with baseball while he was too young to do so. Yep. That was a genre we had for a little bit.
Yeah.
Dan Hedaya is definitely like one of the greats. He's always good. I believe he plays Tricky Dick Nixon in the movie Dick.
Oh, that makes sense to me. Actually.
Which is a fantastic movie.
Never seen it.
Really funny. You've seen All the President's Men, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay, so Woodward and Bernstein in this are Will Ferrell and Bruce McCullough.
Holy shit.
And Bruce McCullough is essentially doing his Dustin Hoffman, but the gag is because he has this like ridiculous long hair, like no matter what he says, he always just flicks his hair back, and that's a really, really clever, funny movie.
I'll have to check that out. I had no idea that they were in it.
And it's like history savvy, but kind of goofy. I mean, it's Michelle Williams and Kirsten Dunst. They're both excellent, and they're doing comedy as a duo. So yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that movie's cool, man. You would really like it, I think.
I probably would.
It's just very nice and fun. It's a good movie.
I'm into it.
I had the tape.
Did you? I remember that tape being on video store shelves. Like that is a movie I'm exclusively familiar with from video store shelves.
Yeah.
Dude, Tori and I have been going through the Mission Impossible movies, which she has never seen.
Dude, that was literally my show and tell, is that I have been working my way through the commentaries of the Mission Impossible movies, because now that I'm back on physical media, this kind of beautiful shit is
you love it, don't you?
Yep. Dude, the commentaries, as I've come to call them, are gold.
I'm going to buy that set just for those.
They're so good. You listen to him and you go, oh my God, like he just really cares about this more than anything.
Yeah.
When I say this, it's every moment that he is being applied to film.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. But you listen to him and Macquarie talking craft.
Yeah.
And they're both really funny, and and excited about what's going on and what they had to do. But there's also this relationship of Macquarie just like sort of is like a little like, I can't believe that this guy does all this for me. And Tom Cruise has a little bit of like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's real, it's wild.
I have heard some interviews with them. Like I've not heard any of these commentary tracks, but I have like I've heard a couple of like either seen video or audio clips of them together, and there is a very funny dynamic there where, to McHugh's credit, which is what Tom calls him, McHugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. To McHugh's credit, he he's very confident in the presence of Tom Cruise, which seems impossible to me. But you can always hear in his voice that he is
impossible missions is what he does.
But you can always hear in his voice that he's like, Tom Cruise is a force, and he is just lucky to be able to be like
he's like wield it.
Yeah, to be like and that McHugh is lucky to not be bowled over it every time he's sitting next to him, right? That he's like, he's lucky to just be in the calm at the eye of the storm of Tom Cruise. You know, you could like hear that in his voice, that he's like, I have to stay like exactly at this distance from him, like, which is so close, but just a little bit away from him.
If I get any closer or further, I will surely die or explode. Or,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
He feels like, but what's so cool about it, and where I think it lines up, is that both of their motivations seem to be, let's serve the story.
Yeah.
Because every time they talk about a stunt choice, it's always resultant of a story choice that they made.
Yeah.
And then go, we got to kind of design a stunt around this. And it's really, and you know, whether that is 100% what fuels every decision is not what I'm saying. It's just that it seems that is both of their lead concern. But Macquarie's coming from it as like a screenwriter and a director, and Cruise is coming at it as, you know, someone from inside the movie, but also, you know, like a producer standpoint. It's fascinating, and it's so much fun, and it allows you to just kind of rewatch the movie since I already know everything about them.
Yeah. I mean, have they talked at all in those commentaries, or you might even know this just from other interviews they did and stuff, but like one of the interesting things that Macquarie is like always repeating is this phrase that each mission wants what it wants. Have you heard him say that at all in the commentary?
He think talks, so. It sounds familiar.
He talks a lot about this idea that like they only kind of have scripts, at least for the ones that he has worked on, because like he's like, basically like, I need locations. He's like, I can't design an action scene until I'm looking at the location. So like I send a location scout to find me good locations, and then as we get those locations figured out, I start writing action scenes around them with Tom. He's like, but at this point we're in pre-production. Like that, when you're doing that, you're in pre-production. So we're in pre-production really without much of a script. And we just have to ebb and flow and keep writing and keep working as the mission presents itself to us, which is an insane thing to be doing with so many millions of dollars.
So many millions of dollars. Probably the most ridiculous insurance policy.
Yes.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if, because like I know that like Jackie Chan for a long time, they wouldn't insure him.
Right.
So he just personally covered expenses for, you know, medical stuff if something were to occur.
Yeah.
And just because no company would insure him because he did it all his own stunts. So I imagine Tom Cruise, I mean, of course his pull allows him the freedom to do, you know, high altitude oxygen jumps, you know, hundreds of times, have to learn how to do a death spiral, which mind you is called a death spiral for reasons. So that he can do it in the movie and they don't have to use a stuntman. And like, so I imagine that his insurance policy is either so swayed by his superpower or he just throws money at it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, God knows he's got more money than God. Yeah. And to be fair, I've only listened to the Rogue Nation and Fallout commentaries because of those two. But he has one on every single.
I was just going to ask you. So the other ones do have Tom commentaries. Do they? Are they with the respective directors of each movie? Like, are you able to tell from the box there?
So so I lied. Mission Impossible 1 does not have a commentary.
That seems right to me. They probably weren't making them. You know.
It's just got like 40 years of celebrating the impossible. Mission Explosive Exploits. You know, Mission Impossible 2 has commentary by John Woo.
Awesome.
I don't believe that one has Tom either. Oh shit. Okay, so 3 is Tom and Terry
Yep,
with J.J.
nice.
Abrams as
JJ,
well.
nice.
4 is Tom and Terry. Oh no, sorry. On set, blah blah blah. Oh no, does this one not have a commentary either?
That also somehow seems right. I feel like Brad Bird is like notoriously like weird and difficult.
Yeah. So okay, so there's not commentaries on all of them. So it's just 3, and then Rogue Nation and Fallout.
Yeah.
But they're
Although
both McHugh and Tom.
I cannot imagine what the Mission Impossible 2 John Woo commentary is. That needs to be listened to as well.
I definitely plan to. I mean,
actually,
these movies are just a joy at all times.
Yeah, I mean that's why I brought it up. So Tori's seen none of these, and we just watched the second one last night, which I may have never seen. I think I've seen parts of Mission Impossible 2. I don't know that I've ever sat down and watched Mission Impossible 2 before last night. And boy, that's a crap movie, but I fucking loved watching that movie.
Yeah.
Like
that movie's a blast. It's a John Woo movie.
I know, but even for a John Woo movie, it's kind of a crap movie.
Yeah.
But it is still full of like gorgeous frames and like really just wild shit that is like pretty fun and entertaining to watch. It's dumb as nails. Like it doesn't even make sense. The plot is like total nonsense in that movie. And Ethan Hunt is like
he's not Ethan Hunt.
I know. It's like I honestly, what I want McHugh to do with either part 7 or 8 or whatever the fuck they're doing now is eventually reveal that there's been another Tom Cruise in the world for the last 20 years who pulls his mask off, and that's like, and is just some other villain like that Kittredge.
he pulls it off, and it's just Tom Cruise. And well, like, ah!
But this is how we get like Kittredge back in, right? That Kittredge has been being Ethan Hunt since he died at the end of Mission Impossible 1.
Yeah.
And it will be revealed that Mission Impossible 2 is actually a Kittredge in Tom Cruise mask movie.
I'll take that retcon. I want more Kittredge.
Exactly.
Kittredge is great.
Yeah. I believe it's like confirmed, announced Kittredge is going to be returning to the series.
Nice.
Yeah.
That scene with the aquarium in that first one.
Yeah.
Which, you know what I love about the first one is like, yeah, that is very much a De Palma movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a De Palma movie. It plays like a De Palma movie. It makes sense if you've seen old episodes of the show that you would have fixed someone like De Palma to update it for the 90s. Well, and then it's just very funny what it kind of goes through to become what it is now.
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's another franchise that takes them 4 movies to figure out like what they really are. You know?
Yeah. I do like them. I think that first one's really fantastic.
Yeah.
Second one's fun. Third one was like, because of when it came out, it was just kind of like the best Pierce Brosnan Bond movie in a while.
Right.
But it was just, Yeah.
I'm looking forward to revisiting the third one because I have good memories of that movie, but my understanding is it's actually one of the ones that's aged the worst.
Yeah, it has a couple weird elements because I went through all of them prior to Fallout. A few years back, or was that a year ago? What is time? Where are we?
I don't even know.
Dude, it's December.
Yeah, I know.
And so, yeah, it's I remember watching it and enjoying it. There's definitely like some like real just chewing between Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
But I also remember it having some silly elements and some like weirdly cruel elements, you know.
Interesting, yeah.
But I mean, it is really good though. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. The John Woo one was just like one of the things, and I think Santelli has said this to me before. I don't think this is like my thought, but like one of the things that is really weird about MI2 in particular is that like Ethan Hunt is dual wielding pistols, just mowing down bad guys at a certain point. You know,
I had this conversation with Santelli as well, and the way he said it was factually incorrect, but spiritually correct. He said guns just don't mix with Mission Impossible. Right. You don't put guns in a Mission Impossible movie. And it's like, well, there's guns in all of them.
Yep.
But he's right. Like, it's never about the guns.
Yep.
It's always about the wits first and then guns later. And Run and Gun is 100% about guns.
Yeah.
And like, this one feels like that.
If you think about most of the action scenes of every other Mission movie that Tom Cruise is doing the action in, it is very rare that the character Ethan Hunt is holding and pointing a gun at somebody.
Yeah.
Except for 2. 2 is like he's just fucking mowing people down, you know?
He cartwheel kicks somebody and mows people down because he's a Matrix now.
That's the other thing that's crazy about that movie is that, like, it's very clear that he liked some John Woo Chow Yun-Fat movies and was like, turn me into American Chow Yun-Fat. And to his credit, like, he does some really sweet, like, martial arts in the movie.
He does some sweet stunts.
Right, yeah.
Some cool tricks.
By sweet martial arts, I guess what I mean is like there are a handful of singular slow motion shots of him doing cool kicks. There's like never
cool
a shot
kicks with his long hair.
There's like never a shot of him really doing like extended kung fu. There's just these singular like slow motion. He's just doing like a big flip kick, And they're cool. Yeah. They're really awesome. But it is a weird thing again, where it's like Ethan Hunt will never do that again in another Mission movie. It's
never gonna happen.
Yeah.
He does tricks, but he doesn't do that kind of tricks.
Right.
That one is because Tom Cruise is like asexual on screen.
Yes.
And so even though a romantic element is introduced in the third movie with Michelle Monaghan's character and sort of, threads throughout the rest, there's a romantic element, but the second one is like specifically horny.
Yes.
And that doesn't work for me about it because Tom Cruise reads it's asexual. He's barely there on romantic for me, but it works in the context of the missions.
I'm with you.
In 2, he's like horny and wants to fuck, and I was like, I don't see that. It just doesn't play.
Truly the weirdest. I mean, I have just said this 3 different times. I started 3 different premises with the weirdest thing, but one of the weirdest things about 2
it's weird.
Is that you're right. He like has no sexual chemistry with Tandy Newton, which is insane.
Yeah,
and
she just oozes pure desire. Oh.
And he's got no chemistry with her. But I agree. He just generally doesn't really have any sexual like energy really in anything.
He doesn't do romantic like sex stuff.
He's got characters that are meant to, but it never reads for me. And in particular, what I think is pretty interesting about MI2 is I kind of think he subconsciously. This is maybe stepping out of bounds, but I don't think he realized how subtly like homoerotic, and not even subtly, but like how homoerotic John Woo movies are. I think he watched John Woo movies and was like, wow, Chow Yun-Fat looks awesome in these movies, not realizing that like, no, what Chow Yun-Fat looks like in those movies is sexualized. Like John Woo is literally sexualizing that man with his camera.
Oh yeah.
And he's putting him in situations where he exclusively has like basically male lovers. That's not exactly what's happening in those movies, but that is
that's
subtext of those movies,
It's very they're all shooting their dicks at one another. 100%. But also I think that's what makes Tom Cruise so asexual in movies is that his attraction to the John Woo movies is like that of a child.
Yeah.
Who sees it and goes, cool, I want to do it. And that's just an asexual thing.
I do think the end result is that like what he ends up subconsciously doing is making a movie where there actually is a lot of Tom Cruise sexual energy in that movie, but it's always between him and the male characters.
Yeah,
like him and the villain have like tons of sexual chemistry together when they're like arguing with each other and fighting. And in particular, actually, him and Anthony Hopkins have a fucking weird couple of moments.
I'm gonna have to watch again. I don't remember.
Every
conversation
Anthony
Hopkins is in it.
I'm not kidding. Every conversation they have, they're just looking at each other and kind of grinning as they say, like, as he's like, "So, Ethan, where did you go on vacation?" And he's like, "Well, if I told you, it wouldn't be a vacation." And he's like, "That's right. That's why you shouldn't tell me." It's like, it's all.
And he's like, I too have been to Rehoboth Beach.
Dude, there's so much weird sexual energy in those scenes. It's crazy. I feel like
That's
he
so
subconsciously ended up getting a director to make a very homoerotic movie starring him.
Which is the last thing he wants to do.
Yep.
Oh, that's so funny. I'm going to watch it with that eye.
Yeah.
But I do, like I said, I remember that movie trying to be horny and make him horny. And it just was like, it was not playing, not playing like that.
No, it never reads. He also has, some great John Woo Dove moments that are very fun to see with Tom Cruise. Actually, I was like pretty surprised
funny that he just leaned right into the doves.
Totally.
He just does not give a fuck. Woo's just like, get some doves.
I mean, I don't want to give this movie too much credit because it's a real dumb movie. But one of the images that I thought was interesting is the birds are pigeons, actually, in MI2. They're all pigeons. And then there's one shot where Tom Cruise has basically like the bad guys are all like in a room and Tom Cruise is like sort of making his way into their compound, like slowly taking guys out as he gets to the room that they're all in. And there's all these pigeons that are flying around while he's doing it. And they're very clearly pigeons. And then there's one shot where he like throws a grenade and blows a guy up and it like knocks the door down to the room that everybody's in. And so it's a shot from the bad guy's perspective. They're looking out the door that's just been blown open. It's all fire, and Tom Cruise in slow motion just walks by the door. With all
I remember that, yes.
And literally a glowing dove flies. It has like a yellow golden glow around it while it flies by him, and it's the only time the birds are doves as opposed to pigeons. And
That's
there's
so
definitely a
funny.
specific thing that he's doing, but I have no fucking idea why that's in a Mission Impossible 2. You know what I mean?
Because he was sent from on high, Ethan
Yeah.
Hunt. That's so funny. Yeah, it's just like it's like a very functional action movie. I would say it's of its time, but I would say it's actually of about 2 years prior to
Yes.
it's like it's a little bit behind on that. But I also think that a lot of what happens in the rest of the series is a little bit informed by this.
Oh, for sure.
Like the first movie, you got the train sequence, but that's a pretend sequence. That was created falsely. They're not on a train. But in the second one, Tom Cruise insisted upon climbing those rocks.
Right.
Insisted upon it. And also, if I understand what I've read correctly, Tom Cruise looked at that, the motorcycle stunt.
Yep.
And one of the things that bugs him about it is that you can tell that it's a stuntman.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Which is why I think the combination of those things, it becomes in 3, it's like, no, we're going to set up a cool stunt.
Yeah,
And they do that thing where he's got to run down the side of the building.
Yep.
Which is always funny because they're like, how do we get in there? And he starts drawing on the window across the street. Like, we can do this. It's like, this is your first thought?
Yeah.
Like, not find the key? Oh,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, do that. That works.
There's actually...
And so I think that turns into now, like you said, like it took till 4 to kind of find out what it wanted to be.
Yes.
And what these movies are. And I think 2 is kind of essential to that growth.
I mean, in a character development sense, I mean, we've been talking about how this Ethan Hunt doesn't feel anything like Ethan Hunt.
Yeah, he gets his hornies out.
Right. But the one thing is this establishes Ethan Hunt as like an adrenaline junkie, which is an essential part of that character.
Yeah, that's true.
Not really from the first movie. That gets kind of introduced here. And, that is like a pretty essential element of that character in the rest of these movies. So you can't really... It is hard to write the movie off entirely. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like to think there's like an alternate scene in the first movie after the train sequence and after the helicopter explodes where he's just like talking to Ving Rhames or whatever, and he's like, man, the craziest thing happened. He's like, when I was holding on to the top of that train, it's got fucking hard as shit, man. I gotta chase this dragon.
Yeah.
Give me some more missions. You get motorcycles? Can we do motorcycles?
There's like a weird piece of trivia about this movie that I thought was interesting, but I can't remember the actor's name. I'm looking it up really quick. The guy who plays the villain in that movie, it's like DeGray Scott or something like that. Is that
Yeah, I think that's his name. Like Doug Ray.
Yeah, Doug Ray Scott. The weirdest piece of trivia about this movie is that he turned down playing Wolverine in Bryan Singer's X-Men to play the villain in Mission Impossible 2.
That is that's a decision you look back on and go, man, if I knew what I know now.
Yep, especially since, like, when was the last time you heard DeGray Scott's name?
Yeah, I heard Hugh Jackman's name 30 times today. And I was happy every time.
Yeah, isn't that wild? That's
insane.
Yeah, and frankly, like, watching that movie, I can see why he not necessarily would have been a good choice for Wolverine, because I think, like, again, what we know now is that, like, Hugh Jackman was the perfect casting for that character.
Yeah.
But I can see why he has a lot of similar I mean, for one thing, he's also Australian, but he has a lot of similar qualities to Jackman. Even just in, like, facial expressions he made and stuff. I can see why they were looking at him and how they ended up on Hugh Jackman when they didn't get him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's wild. That's a really... I mean, and it's one of those things where if you look back, it's like, yeah, maybe he would have had a similar trajectory as Hugh Jackman where that propelled him into the spotlight.
Right.
But also we discount the fact that, we all went, who's this guy playing Wolverine? And then it turns out he sings, he dances, he acts. He's like this incredibly talented, like, Hugh Jackman, I think, is one of the greats and legitimately so. And would Doug Ray Scott have elevated that? I don't know. Would Hugh Jackman have been able to elevate the Mission Impossible 2 villain into a career all the same? I think so.
Maybe.
But, like, not to knock Doug Ray Scott. I just am not as familiar. But I think he could, because, like, he did, like, remember Swordfish? And
that's exactly what I was thinking of when you said that.
He's done some stankers.
Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking of when you said that. I was like, well, he did make Swordfish, which feels somehow akin to Mission Impossible 2.
it's very akin to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was another one where like John Travolta was like, I'm going to do long hair now. And it's like, hey, you're missing it by 3 years, man.
I know.
It's not happening.
I know. Yeah, it's
We
weird.
liked it in Pulp Fiction because it was weird, but that
Yeah.
was a few years ago.
It's weird to think how many actors went through that in like the 90s and the 2000s, just a long hair phase.
There's probably so many trends we could track like that.
Yeah.
But man, what is Tori home? What does she think of those movies? I'm curious as to what she thinks.
She's on her way home from work.
Oh, fair enough. Has she enjoyed them so far?
Yeah. I think actually we both agree that there is so much to appreciate about Brian De Palma's Mission Impossible, most of which is that it's a Brian De Palma movie first and foremost, especially after having seen Blowout. You can like really feel how it's like a Brian De Palma movie.
Yeah, he didn't intend a franchise. He just wanted to make the modern version of the show.
Yep. But we both agreed. Now, again, she's seen none of the other ones yet, and I think that she probably will like those even more. But with just these two movies, Mission Impossible 2, we kind of prefer Mission Impossible 2.
No way!
Yeah.
Man.
It's stupid as shit, but we had a blast watching it. Like
it is a fun movie, yeah.
And the first one is good and a good thriller, and I think particularly for me, that was like an early VHS movie that I remember watching a lot. That holds a special place for me. But just watching it with her, and you know how sometimes you get that like, oh, I'm watching it through somebody else's eyes now?
Yeah.
It's a little boring in 2020. It's a little slow and boring. It doesn't quite get there.
I have a very, very big love for that movie, and when I revisited it, I thought it was just better than ever. So I will disagree in that if you put them both down in front of me, I'm almost always gonna pick one.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I don't love 2, but if like you put that decision in front of me 10 times, it's like a 7-3 situation,
right,
because I do dig on some 2.
Yeah.
As it were. I'm so glad that she's enjoying. I mean, of course, she's gonna enjoy them. She likes the fast movies and all that shit.
I think so, and I think especially once we get to 4, she's gonna be like, "Oh, I get it." Like, I think so far she's like, "Yeah, these are like fun," but that I don't think they have done a terrible lot for her. I think that's why 2 was a little preferable, as it was at least like insane.
Yeah.
I think 4 on she's gonna have a lot more fun with. I think
that's when you get like Benji becomes like a real fixture, because he's in 3, but he becomes like a fixture.
Yeah.
I mean, Renner's great in those movies. He just doesn't last.
I think she'll groove with those better. They just have a more fun tone overall, I think, that she's gonna enjoy.
So like the first one, is just sets it up. Yeah. So the second one introduces the idea that he's gonna do some stunts and some thrilling stuff.
Yeah.
The third one sort of brings back the idea from the first movie of he's got to put together a team, but now it's like they're the team.
And also, the third one I think one of the important aspects of the third one is the first one kind of establishes this, but the second one abandons it so much that I think it's important that like one of the things that quote unquote domesticating Ethan Hunt does in the third one is it establishes that he is a good man.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Like a very important part of Ethan Hunt, like moving forward from that movie.
Yeah, and that helps to inform like when he does these crazy stunts. Like if you watch like a late Die Hard movie, it gets to the point like where you're like, why are you chasing this? Like stop,
Yes.
And where in this one, like even when he's going against the odds, when everyone's about to die, it's like why? Like you can run from this. You've done enough. He's like, no, I have to be that force. And it's because he's good. So I think you're right. I never thought about it that way.
I think that's like the key important thing for that third one, I think.
I believe his motivation behind everything is never about the ego of winning the mission.
Right.
Or that, like, there's a little of that in 2, and that dissolves. The ego of winning the mission, any sort of vengeance thing, it's always about we just have to stop the bad.
Yep.
And we're the only people good enough to do it, so it's our duty.
And I when we rewatch the third one, I'll have a better idea of this. But again, an important aspect of him, good man, also like unwilling to, like, he's not a by any means necessary man. And that's like very specifically what I mean by good man. You know what I mean? Like he will stop short of killing innocent people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I think again, like that's just, I don't know. That's a very important aspect of that character that makes him like very unique from other like spycraft characters,
There's always ego in a spy, and I don't think he has one. I think the only ego he has is in those moments where he fails it like bruises him like I should have been better than that.
Yes.
But then he learns from like in Fallout when the one cop lady tries to stop him, he's like, please, you have like go. Yeah. Just forget about it. Walk away.
Yep.
It's too big. Yep. And it's definitely out of his care. Like this, he cares enough that, and then, she gets shot by the other people. And he has that moment of like, what could I have done to stop that so that next time it doesn't happen? It's so groovy. I love it. Yeah, that's
but
so true.
Continue
Very
your
well
train
said.
of thought. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought that was such an important aspect of that movie. I'm so glad you brought that up though,
because that is key to him. Everything, like even when we not abandon, but like move away from the Michelle Monaghan character, it's not. It doesn't feel as cynical as when Tandy Newton just disappears out of the narrative. Things like that. It's like he moved away because he cares to keep her safe.
Right.
And so like effectively, oh man, like when she pops up in 5 and you're just like, fuck.
Yes.
Ah! That was so good. And it could have just been a stakes raiser, but it's that much more because it was warm.
Yep.
So then the fourth one you got, what's his name? Brad
Bird.
Brad Bird. He's an animation director.
Yep.
So now that huge stunt that they did in the third one where he's running down the side of the building and all that, he decides, how do we layer this with 3 different stunts, tense moments, things of espionage. So he brings that animation aesthetic into it, which is like the what I mean about animation is like, since you don't have real people, you can kind of just scatter the pieces.
Yes.
And so he does that and brings in the idea that like if Ethan's breaking in somewhere, or no, if Ethan's doing a car chase, then Benji's breaking into somewhere, and whatever Renner's name, he's hacking, and like there's all this happening simultaneously.
It's like
I think
an elaborate game of mousetrap is like what Brad Bird is very good at setting up. And
he
like
brings
you said,
like that Rube Goldbergian kind of thing into it, and so and that becomes apparent in 5, and with the opera scene, with all that different stuff, and Fallout has that lens pulled back. The whole movie is this simultaneous narrative going on.
Yes.
But now I'm struggling to think of what 5 brings in besides sweet, sweet, sweet Rebecca Ferguson.
Well, I mean, I think that is what it brings to the table, right? Is like it finally brings a female character that actually feels worthy of the franchise, and like she should stick around, and like she can go.
She's as good as Ethan and his team. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's good, And actually, if you think about it, that actually is important to like a spy franchise. This is a weird spy franchise that has really no femme fatales until we get to her,
And she's like an alt femme fatale because she's sexy, but she's not like sexualized.
Yep.
She's capable, but not in like a James Cameron leading lady kind of way. And as is essential, if you're a femme fatale spy, she can kill you by strangling you with her thighs or just bring you down or whatever.
Yep.
Which is just
necessary component.
Key. Which anytime she does anything on screen, the commentary involves Tom and McHugh going, "Oh man, she's so good."
Yep.
They just love her, and deservedly so. She's just the best.
Yeah.
And did you see Dr. Sleep?
Oh yeah, dude. We loved that movie.
Bro.
We watched
that movie's incredible.
We watched like the 3-hour like director's cut, and it is astonishing. Like how
I've seen both cuts, and the director's cut that takes 2.5 hours to 3 hours is so much better. And the first one I watched, I was like, that's almost perfect. And then the director's cut was like, oh, that's perfect. But she's incredible in that. She's terrifying.
So yes.
And I love her. I think she's just unbelievably talented and is welcome to murder me with any part of her legs that she sees fit at any time. Just say the word.
Got such a a striking like intense face that just is perfect for these movies. I think she's
just a good actress.
Yeah.
I don't know. She like I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't sound awful. She like wears her body well. I don't know. There's just there's something about the way she moves that she has like a cockiness to her that I wouldn't say is cocky, but like it just immediately radiates like this person is important and this person is just like this person knows what's up.
Yeah, she carries herself with the same kind of like smooth, cool confidence as like a Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and so she fits right at home. So yeah, I guess it does introduce that. I also think too like because of that opera scene,
Yeah.
it introduces this idea of like, we're going to try and do a couple artsy things too.
Yeah.
Because like 4 is like super cartoony, Rube Goldbergian adventure. 3 was like a Bond movie.
Yep.
But like in 5 was the first time that you see some things where you go, wow, what a lovely composition. You know, and that
I agree.
becomes essential to it. And in Fallout, it's almost nonstop, like
Yep.
true high artistry. And I think, 4 brings that. And I don't know, 5, like I'm afraid for 6 just because I thought 5 was, I think 5 is like a Raiders of the Lost, Fallout 6.
Yeah.
So it's Fallout. I think that's like a Raiders of the Lost Ark level all-time great classic action movie if I were to be asked.
I know. I'm very curious what they
What's it going to be?
I know. But I mean,
at the same time, I trust it.
and
Implicitly.
I do too, but I also, I recall feeling this way kind of like going into Fallout, like
Yeah.
4 was so good. Everybody was like, man, I can't believe that was as good as it was. And then 5 was like, wow, I can't believe they like have continued down that path so successfully and so well. And then it was like 6 was like, they continue outdoing themselves. Like, I don't know how they're doing this,
Tom Cruise has to die.
Yeah.
That's the only way it'll stop. And unfortunately, he can't. He has no thetans. He is industry. That's my theory about Tom Cruise and Scientology. Let me be clear. I think that Scientology is very false, as I feel religion is generally to be.
Yeah.
Everything they believe is complete bunk and bullshit. But I think that Tom Cruise has such a support system around him and believed it so hard that all of the things they preach in Scientology manifested within him and only him.
Yes. Yep.
So he has superpowers. He is the god of a religion that is only him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he's indestructible.
I mean, I totally agree. And,
it's my theory.
I think he's got rich people healthcare too, which is definitely...
He also has rich people healthcare. But I mean, in terms of like his ability to do superhuman things.
Yeah.
Although they don't point these out in the commentary, but you can see in some of the later entries that those abs were made in a computer and not a gym. There's a couple points where it's like is it Fallout or Rogue Nation where at the beginning he's like hooked up to a thing like this?
Yep.
And there's a part where they show him at a distance. And he's like absolutely shredded. And but then you look and his face kind of does the floaty thing. And you're like, that's another guy.
Yeah.
That's one stunt you can't do, sir, is defy time.
Yeah. I'm so excited to watch the rest of those with Tori. I'm just like, I'm waiting to hear her reaction to some of that stuff.
It's just a fun series. It's one that I always love revisiting. It's just...
I feel like I'm weirdly most excited for her to be introduced to Isla Faust, or however you say her name. Ilsa Faust. Yeah.
Did you guys have a particular reaction to the closing scene into closing credits song of Mission Impossible 1?
Oh, of course. The Cranberries? Absolutely.
Great song.
Oh, great song. Absolutely wild that is how the first Mission Impossible movie ends.
Oh, my love.
It is.
Great song, though.
Oh, great song, but just so tonally strange to end that movie with. It's,
as he's just having a cup of coffee or something with Luther, and he's just like, "Oh, Ethan, you're that guy, I know." I love that in Fallout. That was one line that once again stood out, even watching with the commentary, was when him and Michelle Monaghan's character are working on the giant bomb that they have to defuse of the thing, and they have no time to do it, and he's just like, go be with your husband. Come on, like I got this, whatever. She's like, no, I have to help. So, how's Ethan? And he's like, oh, same old Ethan.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts to just like Tom Cruise in a helicopter shooting machine guns. Beautifully done.
That's great.
Nicely done.
Love it.
So good.
Yeah. Listen, pal, I'm kind of feeling like this is a great thing for us to just center this whole episode on and kind of like wrap.
I'm into it.
Just Mission Impossible combo.
I remembered something I wanted to bring up earlier that I'll tie into with Philip Seymour Hoffman being the villain in the third. Earlier when we were talking about Phone Booth and acting opposite nobody.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman was known in Hollywood before he was famous as that guy. At auditions, he would always try to get hired as just a reader at auditions, and for love of the craft, just so he could get better. And for things like that, for people acting off camera, just to feed lines because Nicholson didn't want to be on set that day.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a bunch of movies that Philip Seymour Hoffman was just the script reader.
Wow.
And he did it for minimal pay and love of the art. And, I mean, honestly, proof's in the pudding. He was a fantastic actor.
So
through
interesting.
and through.
Yeah.
But, and so I wonder how many of those performances we've seen where they're acting opposite, say a dubbed Kiefer Sutherland, but in real life, they were acting opposite a young, hungry Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Wouldn't it be wild to find out that we've been talking this whole time and that is how Phone Booth was made?
Yeah. Which there was somebody else who was the voice in Phone Booth, and then Kiefer Sutherland signed on and they dubbed over it.
Okay.
But I forget who it was. And in my head, I have Will Arnett in my head, but I don't know if I'm confusing because the same thing happened with Knight Rider. Yes. And I believe the original Knight Rider was not the original, like the remake of Knight Rider. The original voice, I want to say it was Val Kilmer, and then replaced with Will Arnett.
Weird, interesting.
Or vice versa. I don't know which one I'm confusing, but I know Val Kilmer's involved, Will Arnett's involved, and Kiefer Sutherland's involved. There's just one more voice to this story.
I mean, I would buy the Val Kilmer to Will Arnett on Knight Rider in the sense that Kilmer did just have all of that like throat cancer stuff that like really like inhibited his ability to act for a little while. I wonder if
and also too, we got this guy who everybody's starting to recognize his voice. We also got this guy who we cannot guarantee we're going to have for another season because he's Val Kilmer, who's a huge star. Let's just open strong with Will Arnett. That would make sense. I just forget if it was those two.
Yeah.
But there was somebody that was the voice on the phone, and then Kiefer Sutherland replaced. And I remember having the feeling like, ooh, it's a win for the little guy. But I don't remember who it was.
Let's take just a final
quick
minute
gander
here to try and find that info really quick.
It's a race. It'll probably be the first piece of trivia.
That's what I was guessing too. Trivia. Extras hadn't read the script. That's the first piece of trivia.
Well, right here it says there was someone talking on the other line of the caller, but Kiefer Sutherland's voice was added during post, so we know that. But,
I forgot that Larry Cohen wrote that screenplay.
Yeah, that's so funny. Kiefer Sutherland, nothing. Jared Leto, and this is Oh, here we go. Roger Jackson, who voiced Ghostface in the Scream films, was the original choice for the call. Now that I don't know if that's not the thing I was thinking of. There was someone else.
I mean, it a little bit makes sense to me, you know?
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah. Yeah, I really don't know. Well, we'll think about it.
Oh, here we go.
Come back.
The part of the sniper was originally shot with Ron Eldard, and he was replaced with Kiefer in reshoots.
Okay.
I don't know who Ron Eldard is.
Maybe I just got a wonky piece of trivia bouncing around my brain. But I do like that Mark Wahlberg turned down the role of Stu in order to star in Planet of the Apes. He could have been in Phone Booth. Mark Wahlberg on the phone? What, do you got a sniper guy coming at me?
Do you recognize Ron Eldard? I don't.
I do not.
He's apparently in Super 8.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Tom Cruise? Oh, Nick Cage as Stu. That would have been fun.
Yeah, it looked like they were like a ton. This guy's in a ton of stuff, actually. Deep Impact, Sleepers, Black Hawk Down. He's been all over the place.
Okay, so he's one of those guys.
Yeah.
One of those guys.
All right, well, Daniel, let's wrap this up. I'm ready to go.
Sorry. I was reading some trivia. I thought maybe I'd stumble across it. I got crazy.
That's all right.
But yeah, so make sure you guys like and subscribe if you have any idea who Garrett is thinking of with the orange goggles that looks like that Nick Cage photo. Please let us know so that we can do that. And if anyone knows what word I was thinking of, please get at us, and you can do so at ilike2movie@gmail.com. You can just Google the phrase "I like to movie," and that's the TO. Actually, you can probably even find it with the 2. Who knows what we're doing?
Probably.
Right now. And you will find us. But please like, subscribe, interact. Yeah, all that fun stuff. You can check out Hot Property, my silly show, and I'm at Dan Scully on all the things. And cinema76.com, findy.com, and that's it.
I'm on Twitter and Letterboxd at Philadelphia. It's with an F, and I'm on cinema76.com. My name is Garrett Smith, and I like to movie.
My name is Dan Scully, and I like to movie.
And we all know that you like to movie because we
like
two.